listening to Lead to Greatness. Welcome to episode number 8 of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential, and together we can change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, I have my pastor, Pastor Jay, in the house on today. If this is your first time joining the Lead to Greatness community, I want you to subscribe wherever you're listening and watching. And also, I want you to be looking out for valuable content every Thursday. So I want to say a big thank you to those who are sharing across your social media platforms. If this content is helpful to you, please write a review and rate it wherever you're listening or watching to help get the word out. That would mean a lot to me. Joining me on today, my pastor, my spiritual leader, the man, Pastor Jamel Johnson. How you doing, sir?
I'm glad to have this opportunity to be on with you, man. And before we even go any further, I just want to salute you for taking this step. You know, it's interesting when I see pastors branch out, you know, because there are so many people, some in the pews and then some lay people who may feel that we are restricted and reduced to a Sunday sermon.
Yeah.
But many people don't know that there are so many jewels. There are so many, we're kind of like Swiss Army knives, so this is just one of those pieces. And I'm glad that you're using this piece. And I believe that there's another piece and another piece and another piece, man. So I'm excited to know the Cedric Francis.
Absolutely. It is mutual. I love you, Pastor. You definitely taught me a lot throughout the years. Given me some great resources, even to get to where I am now in my leadership as, ministry, business is, even in COVID-19, things are, moving forward. And actually on the positive side, I definitely, I owe it to God, and I owe it to God for putting you in my life. So I definitely appreciate you for that from the bottom of my heart. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we definitely, so here you are, pastor of the Word Church. You're the executive director of the Fulfillment Project. You're a husband. You're a father. You fashion. You have a fashion line. You increase me. You have so much things going on. And I just want to start off by asking you, how do you do it? How do you do it?
I think that's why I don't have no hair. Man, when I first started pastoring, man, had my nice little curls, my little bob and everything, man. And over the years, if I let it grow out, man, I got the George Jefferson going on, man. So, but man, how I do it, I think the thing that gives me the motivation to push is that in every area, I have an opportunity to help somebody else. Be it with the church, quite naturally being a pastor, our responsibilities aren't reduced to just Sunday service, aren't reduced just to the time that we're preaching. I always say that the church service actually is from the call to worship to the benediction, but the service of the church is actually from the benediction to the call to worship. Wow. And there's so much that we have to do in the middle of that. We're pastors, we're counselors, we're friends, we're confidants, yes. We're encouragers, and so from that, I believe gave birth to everything else. So from the Word Church, big super shout out to the Word Church. And we moved from the Word Church to the Fulfillment Project. And the Fulfillment Project was, a brainchild of my wife on the heels of us trying to do community outreach. We started with the heart to give. And there was a lady, her name is Carolyn Scantleberry. I remember meeting her when I was at TSU working with the NAACP. When we first started the Word Church, I invited her to come out. And man, she said something after service that really vexed my spirit at the time, but it was from the Lord. She said that your vision is bigger than your budget.
Wow.
And she told me that where you are finance strapped, you need to be resource rich. And so it was at that point, she saw vision on me, man. And when she spoke that over me, it took me a minute to really figure out what she was saying. But basically what she was saying is that there are people who may not come to your service on Sunday, but they'll help you feed somebody on Wednesday. They'll help you clothe somebody on Saturday. But what happened, she challenged me, is that, some bridges with the church to the community have been burnt. And so there's a lot of people that may not have a lot of confidence. And so she said, you need to look at creating an entity where you can do outreach, keep the foundational principles of the church.
Mm.
Well, that came the Fulfillment Project. And so the name of the Fulfillment Project came from my wife, Lady J. Big shout out to her.
Oh, yes. Love you.
Yes, sir. Because she thought about, in our inner city communities, there's always an ongoing project that needs to be fulfilled. There's always someone that's hungry. There's always someone that needs clothes. There's always someone that needs to get their GED. There's always someone that needs counseling. There's always someone that needs some type of skill. And so we created the Fulfillment Project. And then from there, I moved into Increase Me. Big shout out to Increase Me.
Yes.
Because I started to see through the Fulfillment Project that there were so many doors being opened, meeting so many different people. And I was being called more to come and be a motivational speaker. And so I was like, okay, well, let me see what this is like. And so then I wrote my first book. And my first book was #B. Man, got that from my mom, as a product of North Forest.
Right.
My mom taught at Rogers Elementary in the back of Scenic Woods for 40 years, man.
Wow.
I never forget, I had my first job helping her put her bulletin boards up in her classroom. Now, it wasn't a paid gig because I didn't have no choice. It was either that or I was going to sleep it outside. But man, it was one of the bulletin boards that she, I actually put together, man, that really it shifted my thought process even as a kid. 10 words. If it is to be, it is up to me. Revolutionized my mind. 20 letters, 10 words. So my first book was #B. And so from that, the chapters are, you can be great. You can be resilient, you can be happy, you can be fulfilled. And then from there, man, I started getting calls to come and speak. Man, I was on the road. And so then Increase Me just took off, man. And so as Increase Me took off, I started to dress a little bit different. And so, man, I started to have a couple of people say, man, for my next shoot, can you help me? And so I started picking out clothes.
Yeah.
Had, my boys, I was practicing on them, and so then was birth Styles by J. Tremaine. That's my middle name is Tremaine, first initial J. Man, so helping people look their best, have their best, smell their best, and achieve their best, man. So
awesome. That's awesome. I love it.
That's it, man. So that is a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. But you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. Lady J, she's doing a lot. I love her company. And actually, I want to get her on here as well for her business. Definitely, just an awesome thing to see what you all are doing. The situation where you can pastor and you can be an entrepreneur at the same time. Just that whole model, it's okay. It's okay to be multi-purpose. Let's go back to the Word Church. How did everything get started with that? Let's start from the beginning. How did everything start? Walk me through it.
Man, to be perfectly honest, man, I was bullied into pastoring. No, man, I was comfortable, man. I was serving faithfully at Greater Grace Outreach Church with Bishop Usher and youth pastor there, and I had really kind of gotten into a place where at that point I was working for Best Buy, working in their corporate office with their leadership development. And I was living out of a suitcase Monday through Friday, coming back in on Saturdays, spending my Saturdays with my teens. And then on Sunday, I'm with the youth. and I was cool. And I was flying right back out on Monday, and I was comfortable. And so one particular week, my uncle, Larry Johnson, had me in Dallas doing a revival for him, right? And so I ended up getting a call from um, um, Bishop Usher at that time, and it's like, hey, I woke up, Spirit of the living God wanted me to pass this on to you. It's your time to pass. I'm like, what? Like, man, you had a bad dream. Go back to sleep. You saw the wrong face. And I think that was probably the worst sermon I'd ever preached in my life because I was nerved up. Come back home, and then the next Sunday, I'm back at church because ain't nobody thinking about pastor. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Right.
And so, man, literally, the conversation that we had is like, God is saying that it's your time, go. I mean, so literally it was almost that interaction that Jesus had with Peter and telling him that, hey, you've been toiling all night, go out there, cast your net. And so that was it. I got some folding chairs, called my parents and said, hey, um, I'm going to be a pastor. Will you all rock with me? And started off with my mama, my daddy, my family. Um, um, it was just us in my living room.
Living room.
Started with a Bible study, and started off Thankful Thursday because we outgrew the living room, and in an African American experience, house churches really don't last long. Because they don't know if you're taking the tithes and offering and paying your cable bill. So we had to find somewhere to go. And so we weren't, in my head, I didn't think we were ready for Sunday. So we ended up having a midweek service, Thankful Thursday. And one Thursday, the pastor drove up in the parking lot. We was, using their church, and saw too many cars. And the next Thursday, it was a padlock on the gate. We couldn't get in.
Wow.
I kind of lost heart, because I thought it was just going to be easy, man. You're just trying to help God's people. And then, we started looking for a place to go. I remember, man, riding with my daddy, riding down Homestead, man, even looking at some of the old dilapidated buildings in our area that we grew up in. And
right.
it felt like God was leading me back to our side. Couldn't find nothing. And then my cousin was starting a funeral home and said, hey, man, your dad told me you're looking for a place to have church. Come use our building. I'm like, cool. Man, go to the building. Like, man, I didn't know funeral home.
Wow.
And that's where we started.
Wow, the funeral home.
Our first service, man, the first Sunday in January, man, we kicked off in Fall Creek Memorial Chapel.
Wow.
And it's been rocking ever since, man. So, like I said, wasn't something that I always wanted to do, been preaching all my life, but I felt like I had a unique call for kids or for youth. So I was cool with being a youth pastor, but I'm grateful for that push, because while it hasn't been easy, it definitely has been rewarding, man, to see all of the families that we have helped and all of the people that have come to know Christ, and the relationship that we have, don't know how this would have birthed if I was still being a youth pastor.
Right.
So even for somebody that's listening right now, your obedience may be attached to somebody else's next level. So if I would have been reluctant to say yes, I could have just left the church, said, no, man, I'm not being no pastor. This platform, this day never would have existed. But God had this day planned before the establishment of the earth. But I had to say yes so you could be able to say your yes.
Yeah, you mentioned platform. I mean, I see the platform from the Word Church has really gave you access to a lot of different things. I mean, I see you and the mayor of Houston have a definitely a great relationship. You start when you started in ministry. What do you wish you would have known then that you know now?
As it relates to the word church, I would tell anybody this. I wish I would have planted rather than starting.
Hmm.
The my initial error was I started a church.
Okay.
I didn't plant a church. And so in starting, you just rush out, you go and get some chairs, get a karaoke machine, and hey, I'm a church. I'm ready to go.
Right.
But planting includes the planting process,
Hmm.
tilling some ground,
Wow.
going to knock on doors, meeting
Okay.
your asking them as you come into the community, what can I do to serve you? I don't want to just be a church in the community that has your same street address, but I'm not addressing the issues that's on your street.
Hmm.
So I needed to plant. And so I had to do that. Man, year two, because we started off as Deliverance Temple Ministries.
Hmm.
Man, year two, I saw potential in my preaching, but I didn't see a future in pastoring.
Hmm.
And it was simply because I was operating off of a gift, and the gift was good enough for Sunday, but I needed structure to build something that lasted past the benediction.
Hmm.
So we realized that the name was putting us into a cap. Deliverance Temple Ministries,
Right.
um, a church where the word is delivered to deliver you into your purpose. Man, I wore the Steve Harvey suits. Man, I had the big wide neck ties. And
Right.
um, what really opened my eyes, well, two things. Um, I went to a leadership conference with Nelson Searcy.
Hmm.
Blew my mind. I had always been experienced to a charismatic church service. So man, know how to have church, know when the shout music about to come, can tell when the service is about to shift. But I did not have the opportunity to be exposed to how church operated.
Hmm.
And so when I went to his leadership conference, man, it woke me up. And I believe it woke up something in me that helped me shift the way that I did church.
Yeah.
And I was on the fence because at that point, the people that were there, which we were, I don't even think we had 20 people at that time, but I think that the people that were there simply because of the preaching. So in my head, to go and redo things, I'm not going to be screaming and hollering. We're going to turn these lights down. We're going to get some colored lights on the back wall. I'm going to take this big suit off and put on some jeans and some chucks. Man, that ruffled a few people's feathers. And I went from 20 people to about 12. But man, what really was the nail in the coffin that gave me the confidence to know that this was the move was that it was a young lady that's still a part of the Word Church today called. And at that time, we're having church inside of a funeral home, so we didn't have a telephone. My cell phone was the church phone. She
Hmm.
ends up calling and asking, "Can women wear pants to our church?"
Hmm.
Now you think about this. This is like 2012. Why in the world are you asking me about can people wear pants to church, man?
Wow. Yeah.
Well, she said, "Well, the name of your church is Deliverance Temple Ministries."
Wow.
So I realized at that point we had become a book in the library that people were reluctant to read simply because of our name.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So um, that's when it that's when it shifted, man. And from there, as the shift turned, um, who you see now is a direct reflection of making that decision to replant. So we uprooted, we changed the name, we changed the colors, we changed everything.
Wow.
And so that would be to answer your question, the thing, and I can't say it's a mistake because I learned from it. So
Yeah.
now what I'm able to do is I'm able to encourage and instruct pastors who are getting started to plant and teach them how to plant
Yeah.
because I already went through the ills of having to start a church and seeing that church stop just to replant it and see it blossom.
Wow. Yeah. And I definitely, I appreciate, I really appreciate you. And I know definitely a lot of clergy appreciate what you're doing in your heart, or even helping other churches. So let's talk a little bit about that, to help a ministry, whether they're starting the ministry, or the importance of systems and why systems are important.
Systems are important because systems are created to make it function by itself. Think about your body. Your body has systems.
Mhm.
And when there is a problem with one of the systems in your body, it throws off the complete body.
Mm.
But if you have systems in check, you're able to go to that direct system, fix that system, and then the body can continue to function. Same way with church. The reason why we looked at systems, I'm talking about the weekend system, the leadership system, the outreach system, the stewardship system. It helped us, one, from an evaluation standpoint.
Yeah.
Because if there's ever a problem in your church or in your business, because I have adopted this same thought process with Increase Me, this same thought process with my wife, with her candle company. When we have systems in place, you're able to go back to that direct place with an evaluation sheet in hand, figure out what's wrong, fix that. And when it's perfect, when the system is perfect, the system now can make the body and the organism operate all by itself.
Mm. I started off, with the church, looking at the church and, different systems within the church.
Yeah.
And I began to use systems with everything. I mean, even my marriage is based on a system. Even things, it was something I heard from Craig Rochelle. He mentioned, and he was talking about systems with his ministry, and he was like, everything was working, but he at one point he didn't know how it was working, and he said, if it's working and you don't know what happened for it to get to where it was, and I started thinking about that even, in our marriage, and my wife and I, we look, our marriage, finding the systems within that. And what it did, it really helped us in our marriage on things. There were certain areas that we were good at, but there were certain areas that we were frustrated with. For example, we was frustrated with our communication to each other, because my wife, she's a talker. She want to tell me all the details, and I just wanted to get to the point. And understanding the way we communicate, it really, and I'm telling you, I've been married. This year would be 22 years of marriage, in August 31st. And I'm telling you, 5 years ago, so this 17 years into our marriage, where we really begin to get our communication, just communicating with each other effectively. I'm okay with it, because I realize, because of the system based on how we communicate, is this the way she is, and this the way I am, and we're not trying to change each other. We're able to compromise with each other. So systems, has definitely been helpful. In ministry, it's been helpful with business, and it's been helpful even with relationships. So yeah, definitely System is definitely that really important thing, and I love it. I love it. Right now we're in the time. I mean, this season we're in right now is so uncertain. I mean, no one has an answer. We never dealt with anything like this ever. Um, whether I don't even want to bring up the president of the United States. He got something else going on. But for the rest of us, we're the leaders. We haven't experienced anything like this. So the question for you is, how has COVID-19 impacted you as a pastor, as a leader, and as a businessman?
COVID-19 is a monster
Hmm.
nobody saw coming.
Yeah.
It's almost like in the Godzilla movies, you can hear it. Don't. You hear his feet coming and you can run.
Yeah.
COVID-19 came, and there were so many um, platforms that had so much misinformation in the beginning. Nobody was really able to prepare for it, and it affected us, and it hit us so hard. Um, I remember I was talking to my wife about, you remember that weekend when Harvey hit,
Yes.
and man, everybody was trying to figure out, we're gonna cancel church that Sunday.
Yeah.
everybody just kind of looking at their phones, trying to figure out. And then when we saw Joel Osteen cancel church, they're like, all right, man.
Like that is.
There it is, man. But man, can you think about this? Nobody would have even thought then when we struggled about closing our church doors for one Sunday that we would have been in a position to where our church doors have been closed for almost 90 days.
Yes.
I mean, just think about that. You know, as a pastor, one of the things that it has shown me, and I'm thankful for the word church, you know, and big shout out to the word church. You know, anybody that may be on that's, you know, a partner of the word church, man, I love
TWC.
Yes, one thing that it showed me, Pastor Francis, is that years ago we opted out of having members, right? So we let go of the title of members because I saw how finicky members were. Like I always say, members is what made Blockbusters close. When we were growing up, man, Friday night, you go on to Blockbuster, you getting new releases, you know, and if you knew somebody in there, they were hiding in the back for you. Man, you get some popcorn, some jujubes, and you was ready. It was a great thing to do. But then when you had this new little sexy red box that's sitting outside of McDonald's, all of these members turned their back on Blockbuster, and now they're going to Red Box. And so now what used to be a staple in the community, jobs, Blockbuster would, you know, you could go there and use their parking lot to have car washes. All these things, they're gone because something new came. But if you are a partner, you are a part of the success or you are a part of the failure.
Wow.
One of the things that I saw with the Word Church and still seeing with the Word Church is that I am grateful that we are we're partners in this, you know. So I have people that are committed and still committed to the Word Church, to what we stand for. And what this showed me is that the building reduced our effectiveness.
Yes.
The building reduced our effectiveness. We were hard pressed, and man, you know, because we've had these conversations before. We've been hard pressed on trying to find carpet and making sure that the restrooms were good and trying to go buy lights. And at the end of the day, in the midst of all of this, people could care less what color backdrop you got. People could care less if you're playing from a keyboard or B3 Hammond organ. People are looking for ministry. And I thank God for the internet. You know, we've always been a church that streamed. Man, we started streaming probably back in 2015.
Right.
So we've been streaming for a long time. But we really didn't embrace being an e-church until August of 2019. I really don't know where it came from, but I was having a conversation with Pastor Rudy Rasmussen, and he said something that hit me to the core. He said, Jay, in the next 20 years, I don't know what church is going to look like. This was in August of 2019.
Wow.
I don't know what church is going to look like in the next 20 years. He said, because have you looked at this generation? He said, they don't need big buildings. He said, they're growing to a place where they do everything on their phone. That conversation eerily was a prophecy of what is happening right now.
Wow.
So I ran back to our media team. Hey, we need to perfect this online experience just like we are for Sunday service. So, man, we started to go back and start to look at our social media and push it and get us to a place where starting January 1st of 2020, we launched our e-church.
That's amazing.
Not even knowing that 90 days later, that's all we were going to have. So as a pastor, man, COVID-19 has reshifted my focus. Naturally, physically, I'm not going to lie. It shook me to the core. I didn't know what was going to happen. But over these last couple of weeks, over these last couple of months, I've realized, man, that this is the greatest thing that really could have happened to the body of Christ. It may have crippled some churches, but I think it has accelerated the body of Christ. Because right now, Pastor Francis, we're able to touch people. Man, one Sunday we had somebody on from Italy. We had somebody on from Africa who was chiming in, who was interacting in the comment section, and who was we had people from Hawaii. We had a man give his life to Christ from Hawaii.
Wow.
Now, if post COVID-19, the only thing that we would have been focused on was our interaction in the church, in the building. But what we're seeing now is that God is forcing us out of the brick and mortar, the four walls, and he's pushing us into the highways and byways.
Wow.
And from a business standpoint, man, I kind of saw the writing on the wall when I started seeing retail giants start to close and file for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
We are consumers by nature.
Sure.
That's why people come to the United States, because they know if you are a businessman, you can make it here if you got a product to sell. We're going to buy it.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to buy t-shirts. We're going to buy books. We're going to buy cupcakes. We're going to buy cars. We buy water. Yeah. We buy water. So when I started to see big malls that we would love to frequent when we were growing up, closing, passing by Greenspoint, man, when we were growing up, you never would have thought that you could drive by Greenspoint and not one store be open.
Never.
Greenspoint was social distancing before COVID-19.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what happened is that because retail started to shift, everything else in our life started to shift. And so from a business standpoint, and even from a leadership standpoint, I have had to force Jamel to adapt to ensure that everything that I offer, you're able to get it online. So now every hard copy book is now in e-format.
Yeah.
Every time that I would go and meet somebody for a mentoring session, man, I'm zooming more than the Commodores.
Right.
Because once again, it was a phrase that Tristan Sutton, man, a great businessman, entrepreneur in the city of Houston, said. He said, adapt or die. And so if you're on right now, if you're a pastor, if you are a leader, if you are an entrepreneur, we have been forced to adapt.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I definitely want to make sure that I'm very clear with this. We will never go back to the way things were.
Absolutely.
I don't think that I have two nieces. I have one niece, Baylor, that's 6. And then I have another niece, Emery, that's about 6 weeks. She's just born. What Baylor was accustomed to in just her 6 short years, Emery will never experience because life has shifted in just that short amount of time.
Yeah.
We are now having drive-through birthday parties. People driving down the street honking at people.
Right.
So now if you have an OCD type parent, will you ever have a parent that feels comfortable enough having a child's birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese where they can jump inside the balls?
Right. Absolutely.
Now things have shifted. So as an entrepreneur, if you are not thinking about not just how you can survive right now, if you're not thinking about how you can have longevity, the days of AI, into the days of artificial intelligence, until the days of now you can grocery shop on your phone and sit in your car and drive up, hit a button, say, I'm here. Somebody comes out, put your groceries in, and you go back. I mean, Pastor Francis, do you know how many whoopings I got as a child running up on my mom's heel with that basket at the store? If Sack and Save would have had an app back then, I would have been a whooping. But once again, man, there's going to be so many people that are going to miss this shift. And I will tell you this. I said this to our church last week. If you are an heir of the Most High, you are a child of God. You are doing yourself and him a disservice in this season if you are not trying to find a niche that you can get into with your good Holy Ghost self and use what God has given you and it provide for you and your family. Jeff Bezos isn't the only person that's moving from billionaire to trillionaire. We have the same heir behind us. He is his heir, but we are heir. We are an heir of the kingdom.
Yes.
If we are an heir of the kingdom, he shouldn't be the only one that's making money. He shouldn't be the only one that's profiting. He shouldn't be the only one that's advancing. We are too. Didn't the Bible say that the wealth of the wicked is laid up in store for the righteous?
Sir.
It's our time now to ask God for clarity. What will you have me to do in this season? It's www.jtjohnson.org. And on there, you get a link to the church, to the Fulfillment Project, Increase Me, to my bookstore, to my styling website. You get it. You'll be able to follow me on social media. All of that is right there.
Yeah. Once again, thank you again. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness family, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your business schedule on today and joining us. Again, thank you, Lead to Greatness, for joining us on today. Looking forward to spending time with you again on next week. Until then, remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world.